So, good morning, everyone. This is Rakesh Kumar Mallipadi. So, welcome to the session of creating an active classroom. Uh, Myself, I'm an independent business consultant. So, we serve and support entrepreneurs in multiple functions of their own business, like right from starting to achieving sustainability. So, we provide all the support required for entrepreneurs, businessmen in smooth running of their business. So, that's about myself. So, let's dive in. I just divided uh, the session into four different topics. So first we'll have a small introduction on what we're going to discuss. The second is what's really an active learning. We'll look into it. Then we'll understand the techniques behind active learning, and finally the implementation part. I mean, uh, learning the techniques is one thing, but how to really implement it, uh, the way we implement it should be, it should be useful for the students, and also it should be uh, easily implementable for us also as instructors. So we'll learn how to implement learning active learning sessions. Uh, I think there should be few of you who have attended the last week of my session where we discussed on soft skills in teaching, especially. If you remember, we were speaking more about the personal skills that we need, that we require uh, to engage with the child, with the student. But here we will be learning more about the uh, techniques of how to, um, you know, bring uh, uh, or how to do a group thing where learning is both two way, and there is more responsibility on, or there is a clear responsibility, whom to do what, and further going what to do for better learning. So we'll see all this. uh, Teaching as it is, there is multiple activities involved, and now with this online class where the physical interaction is not available with the student. So the the level of complexity has increased, and most importantly, I think most of you know how teaching has evolved over the last 40-50 years. I mean, uh, m- it's the teacher and student relationship is much different right now, and with the internet boom and everything, and lot of digital media that is available to the students. I think there is this evolution of teachers is important, because the students are learning much faster, and they have resources where they are knowing a lot more before you have already taught them. So it's very important for as faculty, as instructors, for all of us to learn new techniques where we are basically we are involving the student more and more rather than before. So we'll just see what's it like in a traditional classroom. So yeah, this traditional classroom, I think we all know it, we all have seen it. But if you see the main figures in it, so where you are saying 150 words per minute, and the students are only taking 50% or 40% of what a typical uh, classroom or a lecture happening. So you see I mean, this is more of an average kind of thing. So yes, there will be students who are who will be taking much more, and there will be students who are taking less. So it's an average. And if you see, I mean, as a class, this it's a whole class that we need to engage, and not just the few who are really listening. So we need to make sure that everyone takes in what we are saying. So if you see the figures, 50% or 40%, I mean, you can see the majority are uh, let's say the majority of the words that we are speaking are going for waste, right? Are not going into the brain of the student itself. And if you see at the bottom, and uh, the interesting part is they are listening only 50% of the words, and in the first 10 minutes they're retaining only 70%, and in the last minutes 10 minutes it's only 20%. So if you say a typical class of 30 minutes, so let's say the middle 10 there is a 50% retention, and for the whole class, I mean, we are looking not more than uh, 30%, not more than that, right? So already they're listening only 50%, and they're retaining only 70% of it in, and that too in the first 10 minutes where they are more active, their brains are more active. So ultimately, if you add the whole 30 minutes of your class, you are not even uh, their retention levels are much low, right? So this is where these kind of techniques, these kind of new, they're not new. These were used by few of the um, teachers or the lectures in the past, but still, these are the in this new world or new age of thinking and teaching. So these techniques would further help you to engage your students. I think the last session, the last time, the last week when we talked, so we the ultimate goal is we need to engage the student. So uh, so hope these techniques, these few suggestions that I'm going to provide will help you in engaging your student with your student more, and it helps them in their furthering their career. And most of these techniques, they not only help them in the classroom right now, but moving forward when they are going more into their high, much higher study, or in their professional career also. I think these would help them, these would make them uh, these would improve their learning skills, their listening skills, so then their speaking skills, their thinking skills. So there is an all-round development for the student, uh, and it's useful for them in for their lifetime. So these uh, the, the the point that we are going to see in further into the presentation, I think it's very useful for the students, and it's very useful for as lecturers for you. uh, so uh, it's a wonderful concept that we are speaking today. So let's go further. So what's really an active learning, right? uh, this is like I said, uh, this active learning word, it's mainly started in 90s, but the most of the basics were there from before, but it's mainly started in the 90s, the word active learning, uh, where there is much more interaction, or much more um, yeah, interaction between the students and the teacher, and where there is constant exchange of dialogue between both of the parties involved. So let's see the definition of what's an active learning. Yes, a very simple definition. So teaching methods and strategies that involve student participation and engagement with the material in a meaningful way during class time. So yeah, very simple one. If you see, it mainly, like I mentioned before, the methods and strategies that should be taken to involve student participation and engagement with the material. So like before, the teacher who's in the classroom, they're taking for 30 minutes, and the students are listening, taking notes. So instead of that, we are here mentioning more, you know more student participation, during class time, not afterwards, but it's during class time, where we are encouraging the students, involving the students, and there is and again, a meaningful engagement, not just for uh, as a wordings, but it's a very meaningful way that we are engaging with there is an engagement between students and the teachers. So as mentioned, So the active learning is more learner centric. uh, so when you are engaging with the student and all, so you are putting the responsibility of learning in the hands of the students, where the students are their participation uh, makes it more fruitful, more useful for all the parties involved. So the active learning's core concept is it's a learner centric uh, methodology that is the main forefront of this particular topic. So yes, active learning methods designate the role of a facilitator to the teacher instead of merely a lecturer. The teacher acts as a guide. I think we have discussed this earlier also when in the online soft skills session also. So today uh, relation between the student and teacher has grown more than just a teacher and a student. It's more like the teacher is acting as a facilitator or a mentor or a guide, where it's uh, more than where there is a lot of sharing of ideas between both the parties, where um, if it's wrong, where the teachers are more looking more into the process of the thinking rather than just the result. So the process where what is his real idea, what is the thinking behind the idea. So where the teachers are acting as a mentor to the student. So active learning actively imparts this idea to for the teacher to act as a mentor. So the facilitator's task is to let the learners learn on their own through the use of different active training activities. So like this, like I said, the techniques will go into later. So the main concept, like we mentioned before, so it's a the mentor or the guide, the teacher who is now the mentor. So their chief way of teaching is now more into making the learners learn on their own. So not only teaching, but there should be certain activeness from the student that we need to impart, so that he is learning through his own motivation. So that's what this main active learning is. So, uh, see, in a traditional class, when the teacher is teaching to the student, so it involves like where the teacher is constantly speaking, writing on the board and all, and the teachers and the students' main part is where they're listening and writing. Uh, but active learning, the elements are more. So it's talking, listening, reading, writing, reflecting. If you see these five elements, so not just listening and writing, so there is more uh, the different elements like talking, then the reading, reflecting. So all these elements are combined in active learning, where all these play a part in how the student uh, learns the subject. And if you see, I mean, when they say talking, it's more like where there is a meaningful discussion happening in the class. So yes, listening is obviously what the teacher is saying, to listening to probably the digital aids that they have. And yeah, reading on the internet, reading their books, writing, taking notes of what they're listening, then reflecting. This is where learning at a higher level happens, because like we've seen in the first diagram that we have seen. So retention of what we have heard, retention of what has happened in the class. So reflecting is again an important element. So when we involve all these activities in our uh, short period of class that we have, I think there is a much higher scope of students learning more than before. So we'll just see what happens, when learning happens only at, let's say, at listening space, at a reading space, writing space. So how much of learning is happening? We'll just see it in a form of a pyramid. Now, if you see the pyramid, uh, so in the traditional thing where we are only reading or we are attending a lecture, or viewing images, watching demos, movies and demos, if you see 10% of what they read, people remember. 20% of what they hear, people remember. 30% of what they see, people remember. 50% of what they see and hear, people remember. So if you see, the passive learning is much more of where the it's a one way communication. People are reading, people are hearing, seeing, or they see and hear. So all these, it's more passive, where there is only one way communication. But if you see the two way communication, where the person imparting the knowledge, and the person taking the knowledge, when they are interacting, when they are exchanging ideas, and if you see, the learning levels are much higher, right? So if you see, the practicing and just doing it, when you're practicing, like we have seen before, so reflecting or retention. So when we do that, you can see the higher percentage of the learning activity that is happening with the student. So uh, so active learning involves much more than just an instructor or a faculty providing this content, providing the context, providing the material for studies. It involves much more of the students coming up with their understanding of the content, students practicing it, clearing their doubts, reflecting on what has happened. Periodically, if you are when you are reflecting on what is happening, you can see the learning levels have just uh, gone up to higher, much higher levels than we are used to. So it's very important for these students to, uh, like I said, there is a constant communication, constant reflection of what is happening. So these are these are the new things that people are getting used to, or in a sense, earlier it used to be very minority, but now majority of them are getting used to. And like I said, the learning, the student learning, or the student, the way they are going to behave in the future, it's all going to change when you involve all these techniques of active learning. So when I thought of why active learning, but I think there is a need for us to see what are the real advantages, what are the benefits that we are going to achieve out of this active learning. So if you see the advantages of active learning, uh, l- we are in the class, you're dealing with different types of students, different personalities, different mm, uh, different thinking levels from the students. So when you're bringing all of them, when you're uh, putting all these techniques, you can see there is a lot of improvement in their interest, in their motivation, in their involvement, in their group work dynamics. Now, group work dynamics, um, when they are moving further, like you are teaching students in the age group of 18 to 20, 21, 22, or a little bit bigger, and further into their career, when they go into much more professional environment. So group work is something that they need to learn, because uh, where, uh, every job involves a group work dynamic. And uh, when students starts learning it from this age, or from this level, it is easy for them to do it when they go into the higher places. Otherwise, again, it's more, they will start learning there. So you know a lot of this motivation, involvement, group work, these are useful for them throughout their career, not just in here in learning, but these are something that is useful in throughout their career. So uh, yes, it improves all these aspects. Now, um, this is all self, but what will students do? But students will express their ideas, opinions, practice their skills, take responsibility for their own learning. So you see this uh, not just taking in but also giving out. So students are learning that too. Students are learning how to express their ideas. Sometimes many students they don't talk, they don't they get it out, but they get the feeling to where they think, okay, this may be much uh, a small adult. I mean, this is something that we all have faced. We all have, we have come from there. So when you are achieving these techniques, probably you are condensing the group, you are making them into smaller groups, and then instead of 30 people, if there are a group of 4, expressing ideas, opinions, they will be slowly starting, they will open up, and yes, it's a wonderful thing for them. uh, they're when you express your idea, or when you express your opinion, when you ask questions, mm, your learning improves. So uh, you see the advantages. I mean, the reason I have put advantages is I just want to um, stress on, or really mention the what is the use of taking this, or what do you what do we as a faculty, uh, when we take this, how are we helping our students? So it's a wonderful thing to do for us, for us to not just teach them, but to impart these type of skills when while we are teaching. So it's a wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful it's a very useful activity for the students themselves, and recognize a variety of learning styles. So yes, they understand, you know when there is a group activity and all, they understand different learning styles between themselves. If they found it useful, they may start they may start learning that variety of learning style, and probably it for their own good. So you see where when we mention when we mentioned about how its usefulness to the students, how it improves the student, how it allows for a great higher thinking in the students. You can see all the advantages that is happening with active learning. So uh, yes, I hope uh, we all can motivate the students to do better, and yeah, if they can get better in their life, that's a wonderful opportunity, or a wonderful thing for you as a faculty. So just a before and after active learning, one in NC State physics department, this was implemented. The one type of active learning was implemented, and they just measured the students failure, how the students are performing, what is the failure rates, how it is before and how it is later. And if you see, uh, the green line is a traditional one, and the blue is after active learning. And you can see uh, there is a more than 50% improvement in, or more than 50% decrease in the failure rate. So, and very surprising part is, look at the performance of the female students. Their performance, simply they outshone the boys itself. And if you see in the traditional learning, where the men were, or the male students were performing better, because they were only 17 to 18% of failure, while the female was at 19 and a half. And once they implemented this active learning, from 17 the male came to 7 or something, and the women have come down to 4. So you see, the when you are when you are using this active learning, you can see the tremendous difference in the failure rates, tremendous difference, the so here, failing means receiving a grade lower than C, or lower than D in mechanics, something in engineering, C in mechanics and D in engineering. So so the credit, you see the credit scores have improved. The failure rate has improved, or a failure rate has decreased actually. So the success rate has improved, and so the students are performing better than before. If you can see uh, at the bottom left, so the Street Matter reported that female students prefer and achieve better in classrooms where learning activities are structured as cooperative endeavors rather than within a competitive structure. So the like I mentioned before, the female students, they are preferring more this active learning. Their uh, level of success has gone up with this. So if you see the scores at the beginning of the course, the pre-scale up test scores are 62, and the end of the course it moved up to 74%. So yes, all round there is a uh, higher success rate with active learning. And if you can see, there are a couple of examples given. So one female, she has mentioned teamwork and group problem solving are very important skills for engineers and other fields requiring group collaboration. And there is another mechanical engineering student mentioning scale up physics helped me learn that exploring concepts on my own outside of a lecture helps me remember them better. I think we have mentioned this, like a retention of retention or reflection of what they're studying with new concepts, or revisiting them through other activities. So it's the students themselves have spoken here, where they mentioned like what made them better, what type of activity made them better. Some said teamwork, group problem solving. Uh, some said a particular active learning and scale up program that they have implemented. So where he has explored concepts on his own. So it's basically the learner is in the center of attention, where the learner is uh, we are actively uh, helping the learner pursue the particular topics, even not only just from the class, from outside, from the digital world, from books, from his own peer students. So you see there is a higher learning for the students themselves. So, active learning techniques. There are quite a lot of techniques in this active learning techniques, and there is um, one particular document by Iowa State University where they have mentioned like 226 techniques, where they have, they have mentioned it for teachers, for students. If you have a small class, if you have a bigger class, sometimes you get a bigger classes. So uh, they have mentioned multiple techniques, and I will be sharing the document with the host, and also I have put up a link of what about the 226 techniques. Uh, my main request to all of you is, if you can uh, go through the techniques. All of you have different teaching styles. Not everyone is the same. So when you have different teaching styles, my small suggestion would be, uh, understand different styles, um, select what is best for you, for your for your own teaching style, for your own class, maybe uh, based on the students in your class and all. uh, Probably pick which is much suitable for you. I mean, now I'll be giving six of them, the small sample. But when you have such see, active learning, it's you know theory is one part, when you're doing is different. So you all know it. So it's best that you select your own techniques, you select your own way of implementing it. Or you can on your own thinking, you can come up with different variations of the same technique. It's not that whatever is there. Probably you can go through the internet and see different variations of this. You select a technique, you can think of different variation. You can check in the internet of different variation, how to implement it, or who has implemented it, or how did they do it. Multiple ways, uh, and come up with something that suits you, right? It's what suits you is not suitable for your next peer uh, lecturer. So my small suggestion would be, think of these techniques, think of what you can do, think of what is suitable for your own class, so that you suit it to your own way, rather than everyone using the same thing. And uh, again, that breeds monotony, right? So you think of your own, think of or maybe the among your peers, you can discuss, like, what techniques they have used, what results they have achieved. And based on that, you can again revisit what you have thought, and uh, probably come up with a better way. So again, a group activity for you guys. So yes, I'll be mentioning a few of them, 6 of them here, but there are a lot of them. There are different variations you can do. So feel free and think about them, think of different ways you can do them, and yeah, come up with your own variation. So today we'll be seeing 6 techniques. So majority of these techniques, like we mentioned before, in active learning, uh, there is a constant communication between student and the teacher, and majority of the techniques look the same. So I have just given, because of our time and other things. So I have mentioned a small brief of them, but like I said, you please think about them, think which one you like, go search on the internet, talk to your peers, come up with different multiple variations probably, or come up with different ways to implement it, and yeah, pick the best suitable choice for you guys. Now we'll start with the first one, the pause procedure. So the pause procedure, I mean, as the name suggests, where you're you're giving a pause between the lectures, and so you're giving a pause between the periodically, and asking the students, to encouraging the student to discuss or rework notes in pairs. So you're making them reflect on what they have understood in those 12 to 18 minutes that you have taught. And they're making notes, they're probably um, sharing it with each other. And this approach encourages students to consider their understanding of the lecture material, including its organization. uh, and you get feedback from the student. You can ask students on the uh, what they have understood, or what uh, probably discuss between all the three of the between their own peers. And they can it improves their learning, it improves their understanding of the subject. It also gives you an understanding of where they are. So it's instant uh, reflection for the students of what they have just uh, listened to. And most importantly, all these techniques, they uh, when you have a class for 30-40 minutes, uh, once the once if you, after the first 10-15 minutes, the the your mind gets sometimes it gets a little bit uh, uh, how you say, it's your mind is not taking in. So this few minutes of this, it helps to ease up their mind. It gives a freshness to the mind. So most of these techniques are mainly for that purpose, where you're just not pushing a lot in, but yeah, in between, you get an opportunity to take a moment to understand it, or ask, clear it up, and then move it to a new subject, so that we are confident of this, and then we are moving it. So it improves a lot of confidence in the student. So if you see the pause procedure, like I said, a couple of minutes every 12 to 18 minutes, you are encouraging the students to discuss rework notes in pairs. So yeah, the a couple of minutes every 12 to 18 minutes. And then retrieval practice, again, it's similar to the pause procedure where you are mm, again giving them a time. So every 2 minutes for every 30 15 minutes. And and here it's more like students writing it back what they remember from the preceding class segment. So before whatever you have said, students are writing on their own, and they ask you the questions. I think in the pause procedure, we there is more group work where they are sharing with their own peers. Here it's more uh, they write it on their own, and you encourage them to ask questions. uh, you know Again, there also you can encourage them to ask questions. So uh, both are uh, of the same type, but much the variation of the usage is a little bit different. But again, both of them involves giving the students a couple of minutes to uh, retrieve what they have learned, write what they have learned. So we are using all the elements of active learning. So where they're thinking, where they're listening, writing, reflecting, they're asking questions. So we are talking. So we are involving all the elements of active learning. So yeah, retrieval practice. So yeah, pause for every 2 to 3 minutes, every 15 minutes. Have students write what they remember, encourage them to ask questions. So this will help them retrieve information from memory, improves long-term memory, ability to learn subsequent material, and ability to translate information to new domains. So the next one, demonstrations. I think this is there from a long time, but yeah, again, ask the students to predict the result of a demonstration, briefly discussing with the neighbor. So these demonstrations come before you have explained something. So where you are posing a question, or you are asking student to predict something, and then discuss with the neighbor, come up with some what the results, and then uh, you discuss the result, and then you give the explanation, and then you discuss you know how the result, both the results are matching up, or how their thinking level, what's the logic behind their thinking of that result. And then you clear up their or you give the correct understanding or the correct situation. So this approach asks students to test their understanding of system by predicting an outcome. If their prediction is incorrect, it helps them see the misconception, and thus prompts them to restructure their mental model. So you can see, again, you're asking them to predict. You're making them think. You're making them. There is a group activity, and then you're uh, seeing what is their way of thinking of that particular question, that or particular situation that you have given them. And you're then there is a discussion happening. So uh, there is a sharing of ideas, sharing of knowledge. uh, and then obviously when you can uh, understand their logic, you know we can always correct them, and it puts them in a correct path. It improves their understanding of the subject too, probably where uh, maybe they started right and somewhere they have gone wrong, and from there they can correct it. So you see the process is improved, their understanding of the understanding of that particular system improves. So again, demonstrations. And the next one would be think, pair, share. Uh, yes, so this is a beautiful old technique itself. Ask students a question that requires higher order thinking, application analysis, or evaluation levels. So ask the students think or write about an answer for 1 minute, then turn to a pair to discuss their responses for 2 minutes. Ask groups to share responses and follow up with instructor explanation. by asking students to explain their answer to a neighbor and to critically consider their neighbor's responses. This approach helps students articulate newly found mental connections. Again, similar to, uh, like I said, majority of these are, say, majority of these follow a same mode, but when we are using it, the variations come a little bit different variation are there. So if you see before also, it's again your group activity where they're discussing and giving an explanation of what their thinking is, what their idea is. And but demonstration, we are more, they predicted the result, then discussed. But here we are asking them to come up with explanation, um, group discussion, and then come up with an explanation. So again, you are making the student think about the content that you are given. You are making the student share different ideas between themselves, and then get to a common solution. Then you are making them understand what, uh, uh, how their solution has come up. You are improving their thinking. So the students, there is a lot of, again, sharing of ideas between all the parties involved. Now, peer instruction with concept is, again, it's a peer work where there is a group involved. So again, see, if you see, there is small modifications. So it involves personal devices where there are example clickers. So pose a conceptually based multiple choice question. Ask students to think about their answer and vote on a response before turning to a neighbor to discuss. Encourage students to change their answers after discussion, if appropriate, and share class results by revealing a graph of students' responses. Use the graph as stimulus for class discussion. This approach is particularly well adapted for large classes and can be facilitated with a variety of tools. So if you see, again, uh, same like before, but a little bit of modification is, you're using devices, you're using uh, co- conceptually based multiple choice question. Then there is voting pattern. So a little bit of variation from before, but still, um, again, you are uh, making them do a group activity. You are making them, uh, this is particularly useful for, like they mentioned, large classes. So, and then you're using some tools, just so, again, if you're the same learning technique, same, again, it breeds monotony, like before, like I said before. So you can improve on it by using different tools, different methodologies. Again, everything goes to, our basic concept of engaging the student, making them discuss among themselves, uh, getting to know what they're thinking behind uh, thinking behind the content, or thinking behind the solution that they arrive to. And all these, like I mentioned, all these techniques, they are there to improve the students learning. They're there to improve the students understanding of the subjects. So whatever techniques you are using, like I said, please think which is suitable for you. Think of how you are going to do it, or uh, think of different variations that you can come up in the same these techniques, so that, again, the students are, um, the students become active, students become motivated to, uh, you know come out with their understanding. So yes, please, uh, whatever works best for you, please choose it. Please, mm, go the internet, go discuss with your own other faculty members, and see how, what what type of, what suits for you, or in which way you can do it, and how the students are receiving it. So multiple ways, but uh, like I said, think of different variations of these, choose the best options. So these are all, like I said, some techniques. But what if I ask, like, when you're teaching, right? So, but uh, not only you teaching, but can you do something different in your own, in it? Uh, these are with the student, but when you're teaching, the what can we do? to not just teach, but uh, in terms of teaching, what variations can we do? Now that is all more like with the students, how you discuss with how you are making them do a group discussion, or how you are predicting their or how you are thinking idea behind their thinking and all. Now will see what you variation you can do with respect to your own teaching itself. So for example, minute papers. So so ask students a question that requires them to reflect on their learning, to engage in critical thinking. Sorry, this is the sixth one. This is the same active learning thinking. My apologies. So, minute papers ask students a question that requires them to reflect on learning or to engage in critical thinking. Have them write for 1 minute. Ask students to share responses to simulate discussion or correct all responses to inform future classroom sessions. Like think, pair, share approach. This approach encourages students to articulate and examine newly formed connection. Again, similar to the think, pair, share. So we are asking students to reflect on their learning, what they have thought, what they have um, listened before, or you can pose a question to a student, so that you engage them in critical thinking. Give them a minute to uh, write a response, and then probably you can collect all responses, and in the next class you can collect them and give out how, in what way the students have thought of the question. So see, again, similar to uh, think, pair, share. It's again, you are making the students think of their idea, or you're making the students think deep on that particular subject, and then you are giving them a reason, or you're understanding their thinking levels. Yeah, so uh, like uh, I just skipped one slide before, but yeah, this is where we can see activities to replace some lectures. So uh, instead of uh, like I said, those activities are more with to the students, but when even teaching itself, how you can replace some of your lectures with some activities. I think most of you might be using this already, using some of this, but just to enlighten everyone with multiple ways. So strip sequence, concept map, mini maps, student generated test questions, decision making activities, content form and function outlines. Again, I have taken six basic things. So where you're replacing some of your lectures with some activities, so that students get uh, form new thinking levels once again. So we'll see one by one. So strip sequence. So in this, it involves you giving making a sequence of taking a content, and making a sequence, and then jumbling the sequence, asking the students to come up with the correct sequence. So give the student the steps in a process on strips of paper that are jumbled. Ask them to work together to reconstruct the proper sequence. So you are jumbling the sequence and ask them to come up with. So there is strips of the content, and they need to put it in the correct manner. So this approach can strengthen students' logical thinking process and test their mental model of a process. Yeah, a small example of strip sequence. So once you made a sequence, and then um, jumble the sequence, and then ask them to come up with the correct steps. So, and like mentioned before, again, students, um, they can do as a group, they can do individually, but again, it gives them multiple variations of how you can do it. This again, it improves their understanding of the subject. You know, you're uh, a big you're basically reducing a big content into a small, probably small highlights, and you're making them think what's the best way. Now, concept map is a simple, like You take a concept, you ask them to make it into a map where the circles or the nodes where there is a particular topic, and go on to next topic. What's the relation between both the topics? They mention the relation on the arrows. So yeah, visual representation of relationship between concepts. So to have students identify the key concept to be mapped in small groups or a whole class. This approach helps students examine and strengthen the organization within the model. So if you see, like I said, in the notes you have the particular concept, and then on the arrows you are giving them the relationship between both of them. Again, you are simplifying the studying process of a concept or a particular content. So it's we are uh, bringing down the much higher subject learning into a smaller steps, so that it's easy for students to understand them. It gives them opportunity to think differently, to uh, present them in their own manner. So yes, yeah, these are all some of these activities. Now mini maps. So similar to concept maps, but with short list of terms, quicker approach. So you're providing students a list of major concepts or specific terms, and ask them to work in a group of 2 to 3 to arrange in a logical structure. Ask them to share or clear any confusion or misconceptions, particularly effective at helping instructor to identify misconception. So like concept map, mini map, again you are coming up with a concept map, and with short list. So mini map is much shorter than a concept map, but it's a quicker approach where the students are arranging in a structure, and then the thinking behind their approach. You can they're confused of particular, sometimes in some particular some concepts, there will be confusion or understanding, difference understanding between students. So you can clear them when you see their map or what they're doing. You can clear them up, and students, they will correct themselves. So again, all the activities that we are mentioning here, everything is a learner centric activity that we are giving it out. So student generated test questions. So again, provide students with a copy of your learning goals for a particular unit and a figure summarizing it with the representative verbs associated. So representative verbs like think, read, share, general words. Think of a learning goal uh, of a particular unit, and then make it into a figure. So challenge group of students to create test questions corresponding to your learning goals and different levels of so in that particular thing, the taxonomy is one they have mentioned. But so again, you are asking students to create test questions corresponding with your learning goals, and the students are coming up with their own questions. Students are to come up with their own questions. They need to read, so everyone can be coming up with, or they can. On the subject, they can search on the internet, or read from different other publications and come up with their own questions. So yeah, so you get the test question from each group or each student, and then distribute all these questions for like a student study guide to all the students. So when students different questions, different when they come up with different questions, and when they when you collate everything and give it to everyone, as everyone, they can their uh, for different questions they come up with different answers. So they study, uh, you know again, it helps students consider what they know, as well as implications of student instructor stated learning goals. So the next one is decision making activities. Here it involves, you giving the student an opportunity to be a decision maker, uh, and then they will they giving them the responsibility of standing by the decisions. So ask students to imagine that they are policymakers who must make and justify tough decisions. Provide them a short description of a thorny problem, ask them to work in groups to arrive at a decision, and then have groups share out their decisions and explain their reasoning. Highly engaging technique helps students critically consider a challenging problem and encourages them to be creative in considering solutions. The real world nature of the problems can provide incentive for students to dig deeply into the problems. Like as mentioned, yeah, students, they need to come up with solution. They need to understand. They need to take the responsibility of the particular solution. They need to uh, uh, give out the reason for the solution. So it's again you are making them think. You are making them arrive at a conclusion. Give them make their understanding of this problem, uh, bring new solutions into the table. So again, the decision making activities involves a lot of students to think, to act. Now, content, form, and function outlines. So again, students, them, you put them in small groups and analyze a particular thing. So and identify the what, the content, how the form and function, the why. So again, you can use different variations of this. You can think of them. You can search for them in different ways. You know, basically it improves the communication between the students. It improves the thinking patterns of the students. So yeah, helps students consider the various ways that meaning is communicated. So when they think of this what, how, and why, they can come up with different variations of for each of them. So just a small visual representation. If you see the top traditional unit with culminating project, there are traditional classes where we have a lecture, there is an activity, there's a quiz. So similar pattern that we end till the exam and the projects, but where there is a project based learning unit. So just a small technique of uh, replacing all the traditional lecture with a much more active thing, like you launch with a project, then whatever you're studying, you're doing it, you're are doing different types of activities like workshops, homeworks, research labs. So mm, I think most of you, in a way you are already doing this. Probably s- multiple other activities like workshops, simulations, some discussions, modeling, quiz. So we can start all of them. Yeah. So reflection on the learning, what you've done, and if you see the, I think, like I said, some of these are have been in process progress, but you can improve on them. You can bring in new activities for the students to just if you see there is a feedback there, you're doing modeling, you're doing simulations, there is a reading, research, interviews, quiz, labs. So multiple activities are you know doing or practicing on the go, or uh, um, the more than practice reading, then practice, then giving the feedback, asking questions, clarification. So on the go, there is a lot of much more higher learning than what we do with the traditional thing. So implementation, uh, we like I said, there are a lot of techniques. There are you can do different variations of these techniques. It's very the selecting a technique and doing it on a student is not the hardest thing, but doing it in a correct way is the hardest thing. If you see implementing a new technique on a student or a new variation in your class, it depends on the even the how the students are uh, taking in what you're giving, right? They all students will not be receptive to whatever you say or whatever you implement. So it requires students to you know uh, accept your way of thinking, your way of giving it out. Oops, sorry. So we'll see how best the implementation can be done. Uh, what's what's at least um, some guidelines to involve the students, some guidelines to uh, bring them on the mm, bring them to your to understand your logic behind implementing these techniques, making them understand to uh, do what you have thought, or you know or how it is good for them. So implementation is a very important aspect. It's not just uh, again we can't uh, instead of by force. If they do it by their own choice, like we mentioned, the learning comes high. So it should be their own, it should be like their own choice of taking. So uh, yeah, small pointers, but like take an inventory of the strategies and techniques you're already using and which ones you feel comfortable. So like I mentioned, some of these techniques you have already been using it. So uh, think about them, think all the possibilities that you are using right now, and think which one are comfortable for you. What best what is the best thing you that suits your style of the teaching. So again, build on these rather than shifting to a new technique. Uh, See, you're already probably doing some the pause technique. You may be using it, sometimes unknowingly we do it, but the, excuse me. So the thing is, you need to build on what your on your style rather than uh, completely you know, doing it in a new way. So what happens is, when you radically shift to a new technique or anything, uh, you yourself, because of it's a different way you are teaching earlier, and now if you start directly move into a new one, uh, you yourself will face a problem. Not just the student, you will face a problem, and then it translates to the next in the hierarchy, that the students. So instead of completely shifting to a new one, it's best to build on what you are doing, and then probably slowly you can shift to new techniques when you can or implement smaller ways, and then move further. So be careful of uh, these techniques. It's not uh, it's not just simply on a go you can do it. It's you need to you need to be prepared for yourself. So one major thing is like uh, I mean, whatever we say, at the end of the day, the marks matter for all the marks, or the grades matter for all the students. So that's where you assess them, right? That's where people think of their success and all. So best way, one good way, or no, I don't say the best way. One good way of encourage. Uh, uh, um, Making the students uh, do these activities, or participate in these activities and discussions would be putting some of these learning techniques into uh, assessment areas. So you can uh, have a a few marks for people are participating it. You can uh, make them instead, small, probably, I don't know, 5 marks, 10 marks, whatever. So you can make them mm, motivated through marks also. So you can incorporate some of these session techniques into your assessment or grades, and then students would be motivated to at least participate in some of them. May not be different students, some you don't need to ask, they just do it. But when there is people who are a little bit passive than others, they can feel motivated through marks also. So different small pointers. So teaching style, your personality, and the classroom are the factors influencing in choosing the right technique. Before I already mentioned this. So again, your teaching style, the way you are, the way you interact with your class and all, the way your class interacts with you, the way the students are. So all these factors, when you're choosing a technique, um, these are all the main factors that you need to think of. We every technique has its own advantages, but it's not suitable for every class. So uh, think of like I said, think of the best technique that suits all these parties, and then think of the best way you're going to implement them, how it is in line with what you teach. uh, you know in the middle, you come across a new technique, and in the middle of session, let's say, in the middle of a semester, and it's not easy to implement it as it is. So because the students are used to one type, so uh, uh, there are multiple factors. But yes, like I mentioned, it's up to you to choose it up, it's up to you to the ways to implement it. It's your own teaching style, your own personality, your students. So all these are the factors. So some useful techniques for implementing them. So uh, once you understand which technique you want to use, which is most suitable for you, how do you really implement it in your class? You know, you can start small. Um, uh, like I mentioned before, you need to build on the techniques. Or if you want to implement a new one, you can start it small. Uh, uh, you know, Probably use a variation. You can start with smaller variations and think of different variations that you can use in a technique. And yes, you can go it uh, probably after a couple of weeks when students are happy with the results they're having. You can go for higher techniques. So so like I said, students need to, when there is a lot of motivation between for the students to do it on their own, so the learning outcome is high. And for it, at the start itself, you need to explain them why you are using it, what is the real goal you want to achieve when you're using it. So that will help them to connect with the activity, that will help them to be more open about participation. So please explain, talk to the students, be you need to be open, in what way you want them to learn, in what way you want them to perform in the class. So they understand the reason, the logic behind you using that. No, different same type of teachings. So different people come from different areas, and not everyone is used to, let's say, if you are talking of a debates or um, group sessions, not every student is used to it. So once they understand the reason behind it, they when even though if they may not be used to it, at least they will have an inclination to learn, to participate, to uh, you know uh, uh, give their thinking behind it. So um, be open to your students on the benefits, why you are using it, the reason why you are using it, the benefits of using it, and make them more motivated on this, so that it's easy for you to implement this. So like in the first point, if you start small, so again, third point, identify and evaluate how you will facilitate the process for each step. So like I said, when you start small, you're building on the technique. So you need to think of the technique, evaluate or when you are using different variation. So how are you going to, when are you going to implement it? Students should, let's say you start with a group discussion, and probably um, um, you make a group small, or you're doing different variation of it, and then how you will facilitate the process each step. So you need to evaluate it, you need to have a small plan of how you want to do it, so that when you are implementing it in the class, it's easy for you to you already know the way you want to use it, so it's easy for you to implement it, right? And feedback, this is very very important. Probably students may be using the techniques that you have told them, but are they really in line, or do they want something different, or do they have some better idea of how to implement it? And all this can be, you need to have to both the formal and informal feedback. Formally, where in the class, and informal one-on-one with some students. So if you see all these, this way, these techniques are impacting the experience of the class. So where the experience, when you say experience of the class, it means the learning outcome of the student. So you need to have get the feedback. Probably you can ask them on what more do they want, or do they have any suggestion for you. You can even ask them. Some student, they can come up with some better suggestion, because it's them who are doing it, so they can come up with some better suggestions, or come up with better idea of how to do it, or maybe they want a different way of learning. So have both informal and informal feedback in periodic intervals. Uh, Let the class decide what is good for themselves. Like I said, it's all learner centric. The activity itself is learner centric. There is a lot of responsibility on the students themselves. So getting feedback from them, asking, getting getting their thinking, their ideas, improves their own experience of the class. So yes, regularly check with your students. Few techniques, just to, a few pointers for you to how to implement this uh, active learning techniques. So we have learned a lot about techniques. We have learned about what are the uses of active learning. We have seen the way we have to implement them. But still, what are the challenges? Obviously, the many majority of these challenges are from your side, from the instructor side. And uh, and there will be a challenge when you are implementing something different. There will be a challenge of, there will be some questions that 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 are to be answered, for you to be in line with what you're teaching, right? So the first one, will I have to completely change my course in order to incorporate these new techniques? So the this this first thing would be this one, where uh, when 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 there is something different, or some I don't say different, some evolution of what you're teaching, when you want to do it. So the first thing you get is, should I change my course to these techniques? And I think no, if you don't need to change your course, because the most of these techniques involve uh, you know uh, a lot of variation in your course, rather than changing the course or changing the way you want to teach. So you can, like I said, start small, start small techniques um, on different active learning, and you can achieve some good results out of it. So you don't need to completely change. You can incorporate many of these in between, and you can achieve some good outcomes. Again, is my class too big to use active learning strategies? Uh, like I mentioned, I'll give you the big list of active learning techniques, and you can see there is thing for small class. There is things for bigger classes. So the size of class or size mm, or the thinking levels of your class, it doesn't matter. You can use you can use different types or different variations of the same technique to impart them or to make them uh, understand the topic. And also the class, it is a consideration, but it's not a big challenge. So will explaining technology tools or techniques take up too much instruction time? uh, So the again, when you are now you are using online, and where you are there is a new technology, there is new ways of teaching, new ways of interacting with students. So sometimes yes, it may not take too much instruction time, or you can probably like I mentioned earlier, uh, when you want to engage the class, you need to be open with the class of what you want them to do, explain them what is the outcome that they're going to get out of this. And I believe it's a time well spent once you instruct on this new technique or new way of teaching. I think it will be a time well spent. You can probably, there will be places where you make the students learn on their own. So there will be chances for you to cover up the time. So it takes some time, but not too much time. But I think it's a time well spent. Since it's useful for the student themselves, I think I believe it's a time well spent. So uh, it takes some time, but not too much time. So will I be able to cover enough material if I'm spending enough class time on learning activities? Uh, when you're most of these active learning activities, if you see, mm, it involves, like I mentioned, it's more learner centric. So when you are making them do these activities, I think when they will uh, go much deeper. They will dig into different materials to so I believe they will read more content than before. When you know so uh, you there is a chance, there is every chance that you can cover enough material. But when you are making them learn, I think they will gather from different sources, and also they will have good material to cover. Now, with respect to students, what if students resist active learning? Specifically, what if I ask them to talk to a neighbor and they simply refuse? What if they did not see active learning as teaching? In the earlier points we mentioned, we talked about it. So, uh, you the learning outcomes, why you are using this technique. So these should make student feel comfortable on the technique that you are using. And like I said, the feedback, which is very important, feedbacks, when you take them, you understand how the students are mm, thinking about it. You can see which students are active, which are not, and you can probably do some, again, a variation of it, or do some different in a different way. So uh, there are chances students to resist. Like I say, multiple students are there in your class. Everyone has uh, their own way of learning, and their own way of understanding the subject and all. So it might happen, but when you start opening up, when you tell them why you are implementing it, um, um, and you're open with your class. And you can also, not just feedback, you can also be open about if anyone has any issue, they, or if anyone has some difficulty, or if they don't want to, they can always come to you, approach you. You need to give them that confidence of, you know you need to be open to hearing to them, so that they come to you and explain to you, uh, or they come to you, they open up on their difficulties. So uh, students resistance is a thing that you need to take into chance. And that's why when I mentioned before, um, your teaching style, your class, all these are influencing factors. So like, this is an influencing factor. And uh, a bit of openness, a bit of giving them the confidence that you are open to hearing their feedback, should, at least for the majority of the class, it'll help them to participate, it'll help them to understand your idea of, for their help. So there is one element, you are setting up a proactive learning environment. So the one main element which is very important, which is very essential for the success of this learning techniques, um, and this is for the teachers themselves, or the lecturers, in your case. So motivation. So uh, y- it's for it's your motivation that is important for this success. you know we talked a lot about how with all these we are improving the students motivation, the students learning, the students skill sets and all. But it's the first thing is you should be motivated to implement this. It's uh, well, when you see the influencing factors, your personality, your teaching styles, so all these are the influencing factors. So when you want to implement a new thing, or set up a new thing, so you need to be motivated to do this. You need to be motivated to uh, uh, motivated to take the students in the path that you believe in. So it's always starts from you. And yes, all these techniques. So whatever are the challenges that I have put up, the techniques I have put up, my small suggestion would be, um, in your colleges, you can have a small discussion among your peers. What are the best techniques? How students are reacting to different techniques that you are using? Some introspection, um, some common dialogue. It would help, um, among all of you to have uh, to come up with best ideas, best variations, and do the best for your students. So a small uh, pictorial representation of what we have seen till now. So if you see from the bottom, you create a strong school culture, then teachers function as professionals in a collaborative community. So like I said, you are the guide, you are the mentors. So you act in a, it's a collab, you show the collaborative community methodology from you. When it starts with you, and the students are more receptive to what you say, what you want to hear. So uh, then you design meaningful learning experiences for students. And then if you see the result of it, the students, they're working collaboratively, their communications, their the learning outcomes, their mindsets, their knowledge levels. So all these are at a higher level. So it's all, when if you see the structure, it's all um, ru- it's a bottom to top structure. And you need to, it's a team outcome, teamwork, that's mainly important for this. So some useful links. So if you see the third one, the techniques that I have mentioned, so yeah, please have a look at it, please go through it. And mm, uh, make a uh, pick out the best one for you. Have a little bit research on these techniques, on the ones you like, on the ones you think are more useful for your students. So have a research, do some research, and yeah, come up with the best way to implement them, best variations for them, uh, how you want to project it on the students. So yes, and yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for for your time. Thanks for all the support that you have given me. And any questions, I'm open to it. And my contacts and they're available. You can reach out to me if there is anything I can help you with. Right. So thank you so much. And so any questions?